Welcome back to the channel. So glad to see you. Glad to have you. Pull up a chair. Today we're going to carve the queen. The queen for our little chess set, and she really turned out fantastic. I love the braids and the way they turned out all the way up there to the back. She's elegant, she's understated, she's royal. She is the queen that we need for our fantasy-themed chess set, and I'm sure you're going to agree it's going to turn out fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to real fast, we're going to flip the camera around, we're going to go ahead and get started on her and jump right into everything that we're going to do today. Okay, we're starting today with this piece of basswood. It is 3 inches tall and it is a 1x1 block, and that's what we're carving our queen out of. Now, this is a the crown. The crown is 3/8 of an inch from the top of the carving. So 3/8 of an inch down, and I draw a line and I translate that line all the way around the carving. And you can do that by holding your pinky finger in line there, setting what depth you are, and keeping that pinky finger and the pencil in the same spot, and you can kind of trans that line around. So once we do that, on the front, about 7/8 of an inch up from the bottom is where our bottom of our hand is going to be, and 2 1/4 inches up from the bottom, or sorry, 1 1/4 inch up from the bottom is where the top of the hand is going to be. And you can look at the overlay here on the left. This overlay is the finished carving. It's this piece of wood right here. After I finish carving it, I'll take pictures of it. I'll put it up there as an overlay so you can see what the end result is of what I'm doing here, shown right there while you're carving. And I really like that. I think it's a great thing. But the trick is I can't see that. So you'll see me referring back to the finished carving every now and then while I look at what I need to do and try to remember what's going on. So you might see that. While we're doing this guy or this gal, I want to also keep track of where my head is and how it's lined up. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to draw a cross along the top of the head. One from one corner and one across the other corner. Okay? That allows me to keep track of where center is, because after I flatten this corner out, it's going to be hard to remember exactly where center of that head is going to be. Now for our shoulders, I'm going to come in about a third of the way. From this point here on the far right to that middle, I'm going to come about a third of the way. I'm going to draw a straight line that's parallel to that middle line. The same thing over here, okay? And that's going to be the side of my head. And the shoulders are going to be about 1 inch down. So let's see here. 1 inch down for our shoulders on this side, and on this side as well, about 1 inch down right there. And our shoulders are going to come down to about there, and we're going to round that off, of course. And so we're going to bring that line down as well, and we're going to round that off. So that's where our shoulders are going to be. This is going to be the crown on top of the head. That's going to be our head. This is going to be our hands. And we're going to have a gown on here. So we don't need a whole lot of other measurements right now. And we're going to go ahead and get started on this in a moment. But I want to also talk about the fact I'm going to be using a 1.5 inch Helvey knife for this. This is my detail knife, right? I like using different knives for each time so people don't get stuck on the fact that it's the knife doing the job and not the person. Outside of that, I want to show you some tricks with some V-tools. I want to make sure this is knife only. You can do this whole carving with knife only, and we're going to make sure I show you how to do that. But on some of them, I'm going to use a V-tool and show you how you can do it with a V-tool, and then go back to using the knife as well. So let's do a little quick PSA on V-tools, because not everybody understands V-tools, and explaining this will make it real easy on you when you're looking to get further into carving. So these are 4 different V-tools here of different sizes. And the 2 main sizes are a 15 and a 12. So here's a 15, and you can see the 15 right there, and this arrow on there is a maker's mark for file palm tools. And this is a number 12, and you can see a 12 right there, okay? The 15 and 12 represent the angle of the V. The angle that V is at right there. And it's hard to see looking at the V tool from this angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it into this piece of wood here, rock that in, and you can see how the 15 has a bit of a a bit of a sharper angle than the 12. The 12 is a bit of a wider angle, even though it's a smaller tool. So the 12 is on top here. There it is. The 12 is on top and the 15 is on bottom. And see that 15 is deeper and that 12 is a little bit shallower but wider out, okay? Now, the other measurement on these tools, because that angle here, that's the number that's represented on the blade. So a 15 is this angle and a 12 is this angle. So I also have a smaller 15, and you can see that they are both the same angle, but they're significantly different in size. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to do the 15, and then I'm going to do the small 15 inside of it, and you'll see it's the same angle right there. It's the exact same angle. It's just that the smaller 15 is just shorter than the larger 15. So it's less width. So if it's less, why wouldn't I just use this big 15 to do delicate little turns and curves? If I just barely dig in, I can do these nice delicate little lines just like I could with a small 15. And there is virtually no difference between these lines here, as you can see, right? And that's because I'm just barely using the corner of the V-tool. So why would I need to have a small one when a big one I can do all of that stuff with? And the reason is because sometimes you can't fit this big fat V-tool into every nook and cranny. If I am carving, and let's say like this mushroom guy, and I want to get up underneath the edge of something, this big V-tool might not always be able to do that, but this little one might be able to get into a hook or into a crevice where I couldn't get the big one into. So that's why I would have a small one and not just a big one. But you don't need a small one to start with. If you just get one big V-tool, a 15, a 12, it doesn't matter, you're going to be fantastic and you'll be set. Now, when it comes to the widths, because there's two numbers you're looking for when you're buying a V-tool, this 15 is 3/8, no, it's a 1/4 inch, and this 15 is 1/8 of an inch. Yep, 1/8 of an inch. Okay. So a 1/4 inch V-tool, that works out real well for me. This was the first V-tool that I got, was about this size right here, and it was fantastic. And I used that for about 6 months before I upgraded and got more V-tools. I didn't replace this one and get rid of it. I simply added more V-tools to my arsenal. And now I've got quite a few V-tools that I use consistently. So that's what I wanted to go over with V-tools, because we're going to show you a little bit how to use them in this video. But I don't want to have this be a video where you're required to have it. So I'm going to show you how to do everything with the knife, and I'll show you a little bit about a V-tool just to educate you about V-tools, show you what V-tools can do, but we'll do everything with a knife. If you don't have one, don't worry. We'll be able to get through it with a knife and get everything taken care of how we need to. And that's where we're at. All right, so to start with, what we're going to do is we're going to take these sharp corners off of the sides here so we can start to flatten out the corners of our crown. And so to do that, I'm just going to take about 1/8 of an inch off of each corner from the shoulders up. Just small little slice. Like so. Does it look good? I think it looks pretty good. And now what we're going to do is on the corners, I'm going to come in at an angle down and into that line, and same thing from the bottom up into this. What angle you choose is up to you. I'm going to go for about what? About that sort of an angle. Not too deep, not too shallow. And I'm going to do it from the same distance from the top to there. I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom and go right up to it and shift that out, okay? So the angle I've got going on is that right there. I don't know what degree that is. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not that kind of person. But about that angle right there is what we're going for, and I'm going to try to repeat that and try to keep that the same way on each side. Now, when I'm matching it from the bottom, if I go too far down, I can't correct that right. So I don't go as far down as I need to. I can still remove more wood. So keep in mind it's subtractive art, and err on the side of not enough, so you have to do more rather than the side of too much. From the top here, I'm going to do it again using this left thumb to pull down with a knife right there. It's not real deep, it's just shallow, just enough to give that angle to the crown like so. And that's relatively simple, relatively close. Could be a little bit deeper, but I don't mind if it's a little bit off. Now I'm going to do the same thing here on this corner, and carving down to it, carving up to it, correct a little bit right there. And that angle is closer to that one. You can see that they're off a little bit. That's fine. This is not something that has to be perfect. This is a wood carving that we're doing on our weekend. We're making a silly little chess set, and it's going to be fun. I can try to correct that a little bit right there. And I want to deepen this one here a little bit. And it's easier to do this afterwards and just go around and look at it and decide, where do I need to fix something? What do I need to fix, and how am I going to go about that? Now we're going to continue that angle all the way around. So on these flat planes here, we're going to do that angle on those areas as well. And it's going to be easier to line up because you can see where you started here, and you can line that blade up flat like so, and just carve right up to it following that plane. The same thing from the top, carve right down to it, and then clean up that line as best you can, like so. And we'll do the same thing on each of those flat corners. I'm going to fix that up a little bit first, and then carve up using the left thumb as a guide. I carve down like so. And again, and then after this one, we got one more time. And here's that last time right here. And then we'll go around and we'll look at this crown, look at our progress on it, and see, what do we need to fix, right? Is that pretty close? Do I need to do any adjustments? And your carving to be different than mine because your wood grain's different than mine. You may say, hey, I need to make an adjustment here. Go ahead and make adjustments where you need to. Like that. Okay. So we made good time. We're doing pretty well so far. No issues. And yeah, so there's our hands. And we lost our lines for our shoulders, but they were right here in line with that, okay? So we're going to take out our shoulders right like so. And we're going to do this in and up, right to the side of the crown there, okay? So we're going to go in and up, like so. You can see I'm taking out several sections at once, and then I'm just coming in like so. And the same thing on this side, in and up. And then I'm just going to take it off underneath that edge there, okay? So we got our shoulders set. Now our hands are going to go right here. So to start with, I'm going to go on the top of that hand. I'm going to do a stop cut by pushing in, rocking that knife back and forth to get a little bit of depth right there. And then I'm going to carve right down to it, like so. I'm not going up too high here. I'm letting that have an angle coming down to the hand because I want to have an angle there. This is going to be a female here, so we need to make sure that she has some some bosom to the top for her to give her that form that's going to identify her as being a female. Because we don't have a lot of form here, we want her to be simple, elegant. She is the queen on this chessboard. She is a figure that all other figures are looking up to because she is the most capable figure on this board. If you play chess, you know that the queen is capable of doing more than any other figure. She is the most powerful figure on the board by far. So we've got our hands set in just like so. You can see I've got kind of half moons coming down to them, about equidistant on the top and bottom, and that's allowing me to figure out how I'm doing that. I'm going to do something somewhat similar here, but not as dire. First off, I'm going to take off that hard edge here on this corner. I'm going to take it off probably about, what, 1/8 of an inch off that corner maybe, all the way up from top to bottom. Not a whole lot, just to take that hard edge off. Okay, and now what we're going to do is center it up on the middle of the hands here. I'm going to do a little V kind of thing coming in and then going out to down. So it's not going to be much. Just going to be in like that, just a little bit right there. And then we do the same thing from the bottom, just to create a little bit of a V, a slight V on that side. And that's going to add a little softness to the form, to the shape, like there's a waist there hidden under some robes. Okay? Just a bit. Add some flowingness to the robes. That side's a little bit more severe than I want it to be, but that's okay. We're going to live with that. try to soften it by coming up more from the top. And that's looking pretty good. Now, before we get too far, the saw marks on here, saw marks take paint and stain differently than parts of the carving that have been touched by a knife. So I want to take all these saw marks off wherever possible. So I'm going to go around the carving right now before we get too far, before we get too many details in here. And I'm just going to try to take those saw marks off. Like so. Like so. We're going to pretty good for the back side there. Now for most of this backside, I'm going to take off that hard corner. We don't need a lot of that hard corner. As I'm coming down here, you can see I stopped, okay? Why did I stop? Because I'm getting deeper. The wood grain is pulling me in deeper as I go, and I'm like, if I keep doing that, it's going to split. It's going to look terrible. So I'm going to go from the opposite direction now, okay? You can see where that split is, okay? And I'm going to carve up to it till I eliminate it, okay? Because on this side of the carving, I can't carve down here because that wood grain will split. I'm going to carve from the bottom. Now right here, this last little bit, I don't mind if it tries to split because it's so little, I can smooth it out. And so there I got my 1/8 of an inch off of the back side. I don't want to take too much off there because we're going to put a nice ponytail on the back of her head. So I want to have a bit of wood there, and I'll take that all off later. So what we're looking at here is we're going to set in a jawline for her, coming down to that point, right about here. That's where the face is going to be. So from about the middle of that shoulder there, like right here, just right over to that point, like so. And we're going to do it at a bit of an angle, coming like at a 45-degree angle maybe in on that plane. And let me show you where I'm at so you can see. You can see what kind of angle I've got coming in there. And I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom side right here. And you can see that cut right here, okay? There it is. That's what I did. We're going to do the same thing on the other side here. Same distance, same depth. Try to line it up. That's looking pretty good, but I need to clean up that line. Obviously, there's still stuff in there. Okay. Now I'm going to deepen that. Okay. I'm just going to do the same thing from a little bit further down and then deepen it in. Deepening it up. That's looking pretty good. Now our face is coming out pretty far. We don't need it to come out that far. So I'm going to turn it over here. And I'm going to take that front off a bit, angling it down like so. Just setting ourselves up a bit. We're not going to worry too much about that right now. We're going to go ahead and come straight in on the top of that shoulder, like so. And then I come down to set in the side of the head a little bit. Same thing over here. I waited to now to do that because we're using this line here to line ourselves up with where that shoulder is going to end. You follow? Like so. Now we're starting to set up where our shoulders are, where all that's going to be. So it's going to be a lot easier to do the rest of this. On this face here, I want to make this as round as possible so that it's easy to draw on when we get to that next step. Any hard lines are going to jut your pencil around and make it a little bit more difficult on you. And we don't want to deal with that. So softening this up a little bit is the order of the day, just to make it easier on ourselves. Just rounding those corners off just a little bit, just like so. All right. Now, what's happening here is we're going to come from the shoulder, just kind of down off the shoulder and up to the hands right here. And that's going to be our robe. And we're going to do the same thing mirrored over here, okay? So from the corner here, where the corner of the jaw touches the shoulder, we're coming down from there to the hand, a nice slow swoop. We're going to do the same thing here. And it's going to come from that corner where the shoulder touches the jaw and just slowly swoop over. Okay? And if it doesn't look like it's even, just adjust it some. Bring it over a little bit further like that. It looks pretty good. It looks fair. Okay. And now from that top corner here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to swoop down about the same distance over and coming down to here. Okay. So transferring that line all the way down here to the bottom, and we're just going to come right down to it. Okay. And that's going to be the open section of the robe here in the middle. Same thing here. Transferring that line on down to the bottom. And that's going to be the second section of our robe. So this front part will be the inside of a robe. The hands will be here. The bosom will be right there. And this robe will be around the shoulders and going all the way around like a cloak on her, you know. And so that's how we're going to have that set up. Now, to do this on the front, before we get too far in, I'm going to set it down on the table here. And I'm going to start with the knife right here. I'm going to come straight in on this flat plane here. So coming straight in on this flat plane. And I'm just going to carve this in from here like a pencil and draw it down. I'm doing it on the craft mat to keep my fingers out of the way. Now, I might be able to do this and hold it in my hand at the same time, but I don't want to encourage that for someone who's new because they might wind up cutting themselves. You should be wearing a carving glove while you're doing this to help prevent that. But if I was doing it in my hand, I would hold it probably like so, and then just using my left thumb to push down the knife, I would use my left hand to move the carving, if you'll see, and the knife is staying still, and then roll that bottom edge right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing over here, following this line here. If you get a little bit off from the line, that's okay. That line's there as a guide. It doesn't have to hold you in. It's just a guide to help you. I like to do a second time because I get a little bit deeper. The second pass through. There we go. And now I want to remove wood on this side, not this side, because this side is going to be lower. This side is the robe sitting on top of the body. And so we're going to remove wood on this side, right up to the hands. And rotate that knife on up. There we go. They're looking pretty good. And still got some saw marks right there. I'm going to take those off. I should have taken the saw marks off on this front side before I drew that on, but I got distracted with the back side and I started talking about the ponytail. And yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. There we go. Take those saw marks off now. And I don't need that hard edge down here underneath the hands. I can take that off. And the hands are going to continue over. I can keep those going over like so. Just cut up to it. And right now, those hands are jutting out there pretty far. That's still the corner. We don't need that hard corner. We don't need that hard corner in the front of the hands. So let's go ahead and remove that. And kind of round this off a bit. Like so. Hard edges on the bottom of the hands as well. There we go. Alrighty. Now, let me just deepen these lines here a little bit. Like that. That's better. Take that hard edge off as well. Oh, you can see the wood starts splitting there. And so now I got that tear right there. Do you see that? I'm going to go ahead and try to fix that. The opposite direction is the way to carve there in that section because that's the way the wood wants to be done. There we go. I've curved that front section of the dress up. That's looking fantastic, looking a lot better. Now, what I can do is I can start to work on our hairline. So our hairline's going to be pretty simple. We're going to start in the middle of the forehead right here. And then we're drawing just kind of out. And then come around the side of the face before we come down the side of the head and then over. So we come over the side of the face and then we come down the rest of the way and then over to the back of the head right there, okay? Do the same thing, mirror that over here. Come down a little bit, side of the face down, and over to the back of the carving, right? Now, back here, we're going to bring it over to the center, and you can see that center line here, that center hard ridge right there. That's going to be the middle of our ponytail. So let's go ahead and flatten this out a bit, because the ponytail needs to be flat. We want it to be wider than it is here. So we're going to flatten this ridge out. And that flat portion is going to be the back section of our ponytail. That's pretty good. Now I can draw right along that corner of this flat section for the ponytail. And I can come over here and do the same thing on this side, trying to make that even. And I can just put the side of this lead on here and just draw on that line like so. If that's easier for you, like that, all the way down, okay? So we can do that ponytail all the way to the ground if you want to. You can do it and then put like a ribbon on it right there, and then close it off like that if you want to. You can close it off up here. You don't have to make it as low down as I did. You can make it shorter. You can make it however you want to. Now for the hair, we're going to have this be braids equidistant like so all the way to the back, okay? So braids are going to be like that all the way till they meet up here, okay? Now, braids are hard to carve unless you get the pattern down right. Once you get the pattern down right, it can be simple. It's just work. And this is where you might want to use a V-tool, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So real quick, let me get a piece of paper here and show you how to do V-tool. I'm going to get a piece of paper. We'll do this differently, okay? So, all right. So real quick, let's talk about braids, okay? Braids are actually pretty easy to draw and pretty easy to carve. So let's say you've got a couple straight lines, right? And this is your braid. You're coming in from the left with one braid. You stop it into the one that's coming into the right. Stop that into the one that's coming in from the left, and so on and so forth, creating this pattern and fix that line. But this is basically braids, okay? And so you do a V cut here, and then 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 here. And then go back through and make sure this is deep by cutting it from the outside on each of these sections here. And you come out with a really nice looking V cut. Make sure you get this section here, this T section where they meet, make sure that's clearly defined on each one of those sections where they meet. And if you do that, you're going to get these little rectangles with the oblong side there that are just really set and really nice looking, okay? So taking that pattern on the back of the head, we're going to have this section where it comes down, two braids becoming one. So how do you do that? How do you draw that out? Well, just like over here, we're doing the same kind of herringbone pattern, okay? And we're going to do that same thing over here, the same kind of herringbone pattern. But as you get in, this becomes one side and this becomes the other side. So then this main line here comes down and this line ends, this line comes down, then you just continue over. So here I might continue over another line here, here, here. But basically that's all you're doing. You're taking each side and it becomes a side of the individual braid pieces, so you can become this larger piece and then continue the work. And it doesn't look perfect here, but that's kind of what people are doing when they're actually braiding hair, because well, I'm a girl dad and I braid hair. If you can figure out a better way of doing it, absolutely go for it. But that's the pattern that I'm doing. That's what I'm choosing to do. So, and it's working out pretty well for me. Okay, so we got rid of our wood. We showed how to do braids. Now we know how to do braids. Okay, we got braids down. So let's do this on the carving, okay? So I'm going to start with one side and then the other. Back and forth, just like I showed you, okay? And we're just going to draw that all the way around. And you're not going to be able to see this very well on my carving, I think. You can start to see it right there, right? This is really intricate work, but it's really going to pop, and it is worth it. And you should consider doing it, taking your time, and just knocking it out. Because, man, it's going to look good. So I'm going to stop right there because we're going to combine all that. I'm going to go to the other side here. And I started on the, looks like the left side. So over here, I'm going to start on the right side. Okay, and just keep that herringbone style pattern all the way around. And these lines here are just like a general guide. If you're carving off of the line, that's okay. Okay, there. Let's continue that as much as we can before we kind of combine it into a bigger section to continue down. Like so. All right. And that'll work out just fine. And down here, it's just straight because it's not done up anymore. And this looks like a hot mess. Refer back to the paper for how to do it right, and it'll be just fine. Remember, we're doing this. This braid here becomes one big section. This braid is going to come down into it. This braid comes down like so. So this braid, you keep doing the braid patterns in it as it comes down. So you continue the braid patterns in this one all the way down to here. Continue the braid patterns in this one all the way down to here. This line comes down, and then you're starting new. And you don't want to try to start these braids inside of each one of these because that gets infinitely complex, and that'll just be far too much you can put into this little wood carving. Someone will be able to do it, but that person is not me. So first off, we want to separate the outside edge of our hair. So I'm going to set this carving down here, and then I'm just going to draw with the knife that outside edge all the way down to the bottom of the carving. We can do the same thing on this side. I'm going to hold it this time. And I'm just coming straight in on this plane here. Straight in like this. Coming straight in. And you can see that knife blade right there. Coming right down the back side of the carving. And as I get close to the bottom, rather than pulling it all the way out, I'm just going to rotate it and rock it in. And you can see I can still get the depth that way without having to drag it all the way down and then risk coming out and jabbing it down into my hand. Just rotate that bottom section, you know? And now I can do a pairing cut using this right thumb as a fulcrum. I can just come in here and easily take a little bit out at a time. Okay? And this is the movement here we're doing. This is the movement. That left thumb, or sorry, right thumb is moving like so away from the knife, and I can just bring it in. The thumb's not going toward the knife. The knife's coming in here next to the thumb. Like so. This is controlled movement. I'm not pushing real hard here. That's just dangerous. Controlled cutting. You can see it's starting to split there. I'm going to come in from the opposite direction. Like so. To eliminate that. Carving up here, underneath that hair. Like that. Okay? And now if that hard edge right here is too much for you, just come in from the side. Take that hard edge off. Clean that up till it looks nice. This back section here is splintering a little bit easier than it should. And sometimes when it splinters like that, that's just the wood grain. You can get around it. You just got to figure out the right direction to carve it from. Okay, so right here, that hard line in there. And then right down to that, like so. Smooth that out. Yeah, we're gonna have a good ponytail there. Okay. Now the front, we're gonna do the same thing. We got a widow's peak there in the middle. We're just gonna carve from that around the outer edge and then down the side of the head. Do the same thing over here. From there and down the side of the head. Then we're gonna carve on the face up to that braid because the face is under the hair. Hair is growing on top of the head. So we're just going to kind of do that. And I got messed up there. I should go down a little bit further. Expose her neck a little bit more. You'll see, like this carving, any carving, doesn't look clean when you're carving it. Remember that. They're not going to look clean when you're carving them. Don't be thinking to yourself, oh, my lines look terrible. Lines are meant to look good after you recarve them, after you clean them up. People often say, oh, Johnny, you get such clean lines. It's certainly not when I'm carving. They look clean when I'm done because I take time to clean them up. You should take time to clean your carving lines up too, but not always in the middle of your carving. Some of them, if you need to right now, yes. When you get done, take a look at your carving and then go back through and clean up lines. While I'm talking about this, it's easy for me to just be trying to clean things up. I'm not just cleaning things up right now. I'm adjusting the height of this hair here on the left side and the right side. I'm trying to make it match somewhat. So I'm making it a little bit better and just changing where it's at and adjusting things. You can see our face doesn't look great yet. It's coming out at a big blobby angle. And like this one, it looks nice. It looks simple. She looks queen-like and just elegant, right? So we're going to try to get that going on this one. So let's start working on that face, actually. We're going to, well, we got a couple things we can work on the front here, but we're getting around ahead of ourselves. Let's finish this hair. That's what we should do. We should finish the hair. So I'm going to finish tracing this in here and carve down to it because this large braid is sitting on top of the rest of the hair. I'm going to carve right down to it like so to separate that braid out along the back here. Same thing here. I'm going to do a stop cut along this braid and carve down to it. Like so. And the back of the head. Right, like that. Oh, this would be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. She's going to look queenly. Absolutely queenly. Okay. So yeah, that's great. When I'm talking sometimes, I stop remembering that I'm talking for the camera, and then I'm just talking to myself. And I need to remember that I'm talking to a camera sometimes and not just talking to myself. Okay, so you can see, looking at her, that her shoulders are a bit too high for that head. I want to fix those. So before I start doing this braid, right, we got those large braids set in. That's a good spot to transition over. And you can see they're not exactly even on this side here, right? They're not going to be even on someone's head either. So I could spend time trying to fix that, or I could say, I like this. It looks natural. And I think it looks more natural to have one side a little bit higher than the other. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to have this just like that, like it's sitting on someone's head, like they're moving around. And the other one over here, this looks a little bit more even, but not exactly even. That's okay. I need to spend more time cleaning these ones up. Like you can see, I cleaned up the braids down here, but I didn't clean them all the way up here. Once I figure out the design here, I thought, nope, let's go ahead and make this video real fast. I can finish her up before I get done. And yeah, I want to make sure I get this video out on Monday. And it's Monday morning right now, so. All right, let's work on cleaning up these shoulders here. I'm going to just bring them down some. Run back like that, softening that shoulder. Now it looks like this other shoulder here is scrunched up. We do the same thing over here. Oh, that's gonna look so much better. That's gonna look so much better. And this is the way that you have to do this. You got to look at your carving. Even though I gave you a measurement, obviously we're going off of the measurement now. And we're adjusting based on aesthetics. Because those shoulders look so much more natural than what we had started with. They look so much better. And we've probably gone down another 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. But look how much better she looks, okay? Now we're going to be deepening underneath this chin here. I'm going to try and get as deep as I can into there to separate that neck out as much as I can. So I'm just recutting, trying to get that channel in there deeper, right? Now let me look at this one here. Yeah. We're going to come straight in to set a chin in at a little bit of an angle. So you can see what I'm doing here, right there. Coming up underneath that chin. I want to keep it as angular and V-shaped as I can, because ladies that look really feminine in cartoons, anime, and drawings and pictures and in real life, their chins are not square-jawed, right? Men have this square jaw, very defined, very rectangular, but women have these softer features usually. And for a queen, we want her to have these softer features. We want her to look regal. We want her to look stately and queen-like. And so we're going to take these soft features. Like you can see this, it's coming down too much to a snout. We don't want her to have a snout. So we're going to soften up each side here. Okay. Keeping her face angular is fine, but not a snout. Now let's round off a little bit on this bottom corner. And that is looking much better, okay? We're not going for a very detailed face because, like I said, it's a chess piece. We want it to be understated. We want her to be regal. We want her to be feminine without being overtly feminine, you know? We want her to be feminine in just this soft and delicate way. Just enough that you can look at her and you say, yep, that's a queen. A little royal air to her. Yeah. I kind of like the hair's a little bit lower on one side and the other. And you can fix that. You can change that up if you want to. I like it. I think it looks more realistic. I don't want all my pieces to be exactly the same. Maybe you do. If you do, then you should go for that. I don't. I like this being a little bit off. She's in the middle of a battle. You know, she's on a chessboard. She's in the middle of a battle. I like that. Okay, so we still got our lines right here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut those in. Starting up from that corner, I'm going to carve that in all the way to those hands. And the same thing on the other side. From that corner, coming straight in on the flat plane here. So this plane right here, coming straight in like so. Come in right there and carve down and around to those hands. And now, make sure that one goes all the way up there. Now I'm going to take out the middle section here because the shawl here, this robe, is on top. So we want to show that by carving out this section up into there, like that. And we're going to do the same thing on this other side here. And then the bottom section as well. Okay, and you can start to see that we're keeping that bosom there, and that's too much right now. So we want this to look not pointed, not like she's Lara Croft Tomb Raider. We want it to look just understated and regal. So we're going to need to take things off till we get that look. We're going to be taking things off on the bottom, rounding things out. So I'm probably going to take off a little bit from the front and then a little bit more in the front. I'm going to deepen this section here. Let's go ahead and do that real fast, right? Let's take off first from the front, bring that back in. Because we want it to be behind the hands. That's looking better already. That's looking better already, right? Okay. And now, let's take off into here from underneath. So, it's a little bit too much still. That's looking better, right? So she's got a bosom. It is not too aggressive. It's not too pointy. And remember, this is a medieval fantasy style set. So we're not going to see a lot of separation here between the breasts. We're going to have this mostly up together. She's wearing a corset. She's wearing something that's pushing them together. So we don't want to put a lot of definition there, right? We're not trying to, again, make this a sexualized character. We're just trying to make her regal, understated, royal. And so I think that is about all the definition we need, is that slight underturn there. And I think that is, I mean, you can tell right now that she's feminine, right? That she's supposed to be a lady, that she's a queen. She's got enough going on there that I think we're set. I do. Okay, so we still got saw marks on that side and this side. Let's go ahead and take those off right now before we get too far into the rest of this figure. And I know that I repeat myself a lot in these videos, so I'm sorry about that. I do that. My goal is to try to be as informative as I can. And the best thing that I can do is to make these videos, I think, like a conversation between us, you know? And just try to talk to you about what comes into my head while I'm doing this, what I think about saying, when I think about saying it, and just say it. I think that works out well in a lot of cases, but sometimes I just come off as talky, which is not the goal here. Okay, now we want to put some ruffles in the front of this robe, right, the underrobe here. But to do that, you could do it with the V-tool, or you can do it with the knife. So we want to have like the hands are pulling things over. So we're gonna have one come down here, one come down like this, and one come down like so, like the rope's being pulled and cinched over to one side. So you can do this with a knife, carving like so. I'm V'ing in a little bit at an angle, and then I'm just gonna follow that same path from the other direction. And we got a little bit of one right there. Do the same thing here. So, and then one more, and then following that from the opposite direction, like so. And then you get those lines, okay? And that adds a bit of it. Now, you can just do that with this V tool and carve it on up and in. You see that we added a fourth line there, and that's pretty easy. You can do this with the knife. It's easier to add details like this with a V-tool. So on top of that, what we can do is, using a knife or a V-tool, you draw a line like so. Okay, I just showed you how you can do those lines with a V, with that thing. But with a V tool, this becomes so much easier because you can control that line very precisely. With a V tool, it becomes so much easier because you can control that line very precisely. Right like so. And let's continue this all the way up to the shoulder. Why not? Like so. And so that adds a little bit of definition there we didn't have. So let's do the same thing on the other side. And we're just going to draw it on there because we're just going to stay in parallel with the outer edge. Like so. Yeah. And then we'll change directions. Get a little too far out of the way. Bring it back in. Like so. And that's too hard of a corner over here. I'll fix that. And fix that. And now she's looking much more regal, right? That's actually fantastic. That's really working out well. I like that. I like that a lot. And like what we're going to do too, before we get done, we're going to come in here, we're going to clean up little things like this and that. You know, all of those little superfluous little fuzzies. You can walk through there and clean those all up, and that's pretty easy to do. Now with this V tool too, you can, like from here, right? It's getting into that corner, you know, you can from that corner just draw some lines out like that. Like there's folds in the fabric. And you can do this with a knife instead, but like from there I might come down like this, put a little cut in, right? To show there's little folds there. And you can do the same thing over here. Rather than that V tool, we just do it with a knife. Okay? Same thing there. So little folds in that. I think that it settles around her. Okay? And yeah, absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's work on her crown next, and then we'll do the braids last. Okay, so for the crown, we're going to do a V cut in each of the flat corners. And it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to come in about a quarter of the way and take out that middle ½ inch. So a quarter of the way, take out that middle half. Take it down about to the bottom. There we go, popped out. Now, see, I had to recut that a few times. Keep that in mind, because when you have to recut it, I want you to be like, oh, Johnny did the same thing. Okay? So, trying to keep this blade not going all the way into the bottom. So take a look right here, okay? That blade is going to the bottom of the crown, but it's not going past it. And then I'm trying to get that top part in deep, but I need to make sure the bottom part now matches the bottom part. So I need to recut if I need to. And there's one. First cut, first time. That's not bad. Do that again. So bottom of that knife going down to the top of that. To the top of that hair, I should say. Now I'm coming at the wrong angle here. That's not going to work out. How can I fix that? Let's do it like this. And then there. And that worked out. That worked out. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if you make it a smaller V cut, like this, let's say, and then work on fixing it, that might be easier for you. So you can do more by removing less. You follow? Okay, so we got that big old crown. Big old crown. But it's very dull. There's not much to it. So what can we do to add to it? Well, we can do V cuts in the front of each of these sides here. Look at that. Add a little detail, add a little flair. Let's do the same thing over here. A little V cut in, like so, and chip it out from the bottom. And again in the back, and chip it out from the bottom. one more time with this last side. And shift it out from the bottom. Right? And that's an interesting little design. It adds to everything. Right? Now here we got on this top, we've got all of this saw marks that we need to remove. It would have been easier to remove it earlier, but if we did, we wouldn't have our lines. So gently go around and remove all of that. Okay? Now we got that removed. What we're going to do is we're going to, at a different angle, set in all of our V-cuts again to the middle. So we're going to continue each of these V's further in. Okay? So what we're going to do is, before I was carving this on this plane, now I'm going to do it on this plane right here. Okay? I go up higher. I'll show you what I mean. I do a V-cut like so. So you see I got one angled V-cut here, and I got a much higher angled V-cut there. So we're going to do this higher one up here again. Remember, you can do less is more. Do it to where it's not quite enough, then fix it. And that might be the easier way, right? Less is more. Less is more. Like so. And you can do another V-cut too if you want to. Like do one here. Be very careful doing this. Okay? Very careful if you decide to do this. Because it's easy to snap this whole thing off. So if you decide to do that, and maybe I won't do that. Maybe I just don't want to show you that because I think that's where someone's going to wind up getting a lot of trouble. So don't do this section here. Don't do that like that. I'm just showing you in case you want to. I'm encouraging you not to do it if you think you're going to mess that up. I'm just trying to figure out a way to add more detail to it, you know? I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's necessary at all. I didn't do that on this one. So it's not necessary. It's just me thinking out loud. Don't do that one, because that right there, what you wind up doing is you wind up slicing through the wood grain right here and wind up just chipping off your crown, and that's just too much, you know? But because I started it, I feel like I need to finish it there because I can't leave it not uniform. So I like the look of the crown without that just as much. Honestly, I think that looks like a big crown. Like she's got a huge crown. That's fantastic. I think we're doing pretty good at her. So let's work on now braids. So we're going to mostly work on the back braid here. This is going to be a lot of work. So I might just do this as like a elapsed time. But I'm going to show you how to do it first, right? So you can do it with this little V tool, okay? With this V tool, it's pretty easy. I'm just going to trace all these lines like so, okay? But this doesn't look that good. Even if you trace it with the V tool, you can see I'm barely getting any definition there. Even if I trace it with the V tool, I'm still going to come back in and do it with a knife. And the knife is going to make it look good. So let's do this section here with a knife, and I'll show you the difference. You're being very gentle throughout here, okay? Very gentle with the knife. You don't want to take off much, so you do a lot of rotating, a lot of recutting, because you've got to be careful that you don't take off too much, because you'll wind up chipping it all off and having to start over again. So really gentle with every cut. Like you see right here, I knocked that little chip off. That's okay though. I can fix it. But if you want to keep from doing that, gentle. Don't do deep cuts, do shallow cuts, and then recuts. Shallow cuts and recuts. the order of the day. See how I'm doing, taking all those corners off? I'm going to come in here and then there. And so with a knife, you get more detail there than just with the V-tool, right? But that V-tool does help you set them in a bit to where you can see them easier. To do this, let's go ahead and set in like a hairband right there, going across that. There we go. Oh, it's going to look fantastic. It's going to look absolutely fantastic. Okay. So I'm talking about too, like see that line doesn't all the way connect right there? Coming back in here and redoing it so that it does. That's key. Now, this section up here looks better than this section down here because I took out those little triangles. So again, I do that, and then that, and that. Those little triangles being popped out matters. Like that. So you can see the gist of this. Take those hard corners off if you want to. Okay. You can see the gist of this. It's the same thing. Continuing your pattern up here and around. I'm going to just do this right here. That's going to be, this one's going to be like a longer view. I can't do those short quick cuts. So that whole piece is coming down like so. This section is going to be exactly like this section here, just coming around into it. And this same thing. This right here just repeated right through there. So you're just repeating all of this all the way up through here and repeating all of this all the way up through there. The only thing you need to know for connecting these is treating one of them like a big piece coming down into it and the other one coming over to it, okay? So to connect the two, that's all you're doing is that one line like so on either side. You can have it come down like this or it come down like this one piece and the second piece. And then continue this kind of pattern all the way around and this kind of pattern all the way around there. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and time lapse this and knock out the rest of it because you don't need to see every single bit of it. That took some time, but the braids are all in. And as you can see, it's just the same pattern brought around. And when done, it looks great. It is hard to see right now what I went over, but this braid right here on the right just comes over there and comes down, okay? And then this braid is just the same pattern that we did, continued over and ends in that braid here. And when you get it done, it's like, it looks like a hot mess when you draw it out. When you get done, it looks pretty respectable and it looks good. And that figure thus becomes, well, queen-like, regal, and I think she turned out well. So I'm going to take her over and I'm going to wash her up, and then I'll come back here and yeah, we'll be done with her. And there we go, our queen all washed up and looking great. There's still some fuzzies there I can clean up, but she does look pretty epic. That braid turned out wonderful. Those little lines there I think really set her off, make her look good. And yeah, she looks queen-like and is going to look great on our chessboard. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I do need to finish up the braids on this one because I just like traced them in, did the pattern there. I thought, okay, that's a good design. That's a good design. I thought, you know, let's do this. So something else we could do, we could try to separate the hands out if we want to, make them a little bit different. But I think this is simple, elegant, queen-like, feminine. I think it checks all the box. I think it looks fantastic. So yeah, that's where we're at. And that's all I got for you today, folks. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. The queen is complete, and she turned out absolutely fantastic. Those braids, I mean, just elegant and understated. I think they really worked out great. I think the figure as a whole is absolutely fantastic. I think she's a perfect addition to our chess set. So all we've got left to do now is the king, and then we'll be finished with this whole thing. And wow, that's such an accomplishment. To carve an entire chess set by yourself is a significant accomplishment, and I'm just excited for all of us. I really am, because I'm excited for me. I thought I might never do this. I thought it would take too long, and I'm going to have this done too. We're going to have this done together. That's so fun. We might do other chess sets too, because like now that we've done it, now we've bit our teeth into it. Like, this is not as insurmountable as it had seemed at first. We can do this. We can definitely do another one if we wanted to. So we shall see. Oh no. In my mind, I had this really cool idea for a really cool shot where I put the last piece on for the queen, but like I realized I'm missing a bishop. I only carved 3 bishops. I didn't carve a 4th. So I got to carve another bishop to get myself going. But yeah, there's the queen, and there's all the pieces so far. We're only missing 2 kings and 1 bishop, but the bishop should be done. So we're just missing 2 kings. Forget about the missing bishop. There's a bishop there. You just can't see him. He's an invisible bishop. He's invisible. It's a super secret stealth chess technique that you just weren't aware of. That's what's going on. Outside of that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that every time you folks do. It really helps out the channel too, and it encourages me to make more videos. So thank you so much for that. If you like the shirt I'm wearing, I've got shirts like this and other products available on the website. I like this shirt. I like the material, the cotton material. It's not a work shirt. It's a softer shirt. It's good for like laying around the house, sitting in a chair, whittling. The neck is nice and tight like I like, but it's not like restrictive. You can move around and it's still, and it washes well and it still comes out looking good. So I like this kind of thing. If you like that, you can get on the website. Don't forget to head over to Instagram, Facebook. Give me a like and a follow over there. Get a subscription to Wood Carving Illustrated. It's the best carving magazine around. There's an affiliate link in the description down below. It's a quarterly magazine that comes out with all kinds of great articles, how-tos, tutorials, and it's a fantastic value for the price. I mean, only I think it's $24, $24.99 for a year, and you get 4 magazines for it. And with the amount of content that's in it, the advertisements even are great, because you'll see a company like Badger State Blades and all these other companies that you might not know about as being resources that are available to you for getting tools and stuff that you might not be able to find otherwise. It's fantastic, and it's really great for that. So definitely get that, check it out, and submit something of your own to the magazine maybe. But other than that, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you guys next time.